Please welcome Dr. Michael M. Crow.
Thank you, and good morning. I was just laughing inside my head as I was standing over there. You know, it's funny when in academia we're kind of like weirdos, and so it's like when somebody starts talking about our academic stuff, I'm sure people in the audience are going, "What is that? What does any of that mean?" And so here's a funny thing. So last night I was in Santa Monica, where we were opening our new California office for Arizona State University. Santa Monica is also going to be the co-headquarters of our Arizona Technology Enterprise Unit, which is a technology transfer, technology development, technology stimulation, economic development unit that is a subsidiary of ASU. It now will be headquartered in Scottsdale, as it is at SkySong, and then have its second office in Santa Monica. And it's fantastic when we're over in California talking about the things going on in Arizona, and you can get them to get past their notion that somehow we don't actually exist, that somehow we fell into the Grand Canyon. And so when you get past that, which is pretty quick, you begin talking about what's really happening. So we're there with 200 people last night opening this office. We've got a think tank center built over there. We've got Arizona Technology Enterprise built over there. We've got technologies that we're developing here in Arizona from our AZTE unit headquartered in Scottsdale that we're then linking up with an alliance that we built with the University of Southern California, the California Institute of Technology, and the University of California at Los Angeles. So we have all of this underway. We did a little deal there last year. This is about what's right about Arizona. We took each of the four schools, took 25 technologies each. We put together a 100 technology portfolio to advance to venture capitalists out of one meeting, and then the follow-up subsequent meetings. 4 companies in Arizona. We got $40 million in venture capital for those 2 companies from that event with the other schools as we went forward. And here in Arizona, I have people say to me, "Why do you have an office in California?" I'm like, "Are you crazy? Why do we have an office in California? We now have 7,000 students from California attending ASU as full-time students. We have revenue from Southern California attracted to Arizona of approaching $150 million a year, about half the amount that the state of Arizona actually invests in ASU, we get from students coming from California, just to put that in perspective. So what we're able to do there, and it's interesting, the Scottsdale brand and the Santa Monica brand are very similar in quality. That is, they're highly recognized. And so now we're advancing this notion of Scottsdale and Santa Monica. The day before yesterday, I was in Rochester, Minnesota, and I was meeting with John Noseworthy, who's the president of the Mayo Clinic system. 60,000 employees, million patients. It's a large enterprise with, of all things, a nice clinic here, helping Metro Phoenix here in Scottsdale. And how many of you know that ASU and the Mayo Clinic are working together to launch a medical school here in Scottsdale? How many of you know that? So many of you know that. Well, we're hard at work. We have to raise a $75 million initial ampule to get it going, in addition to the investments from the parties, that is ASU and the Mayo Clinic. So we're there working in Rochester, Minnesota, where I think they have 50,000 employees in that particular medical complex in Rochester. And what we're talking about is not just the medical school as our next effort, but how can we evolve and concentrate here in Arizona the next wave of medicine. So the Mayo Clinic has this notion of, and by the way, you should feel good about this. These are all things that are going on, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about this frustration. These are all things that are going on. So right now the Mayo Clinic has 1 million patients. Their desired state at the end of where they're headed is to have 2 million patients, and to have, in addition to that, 20 million people interacting with a knowledge network, helping their health span, helping their health outcomes, and then another 200 million people involved in a knowledge network relative to actually putting quality behind the internet, which is hard to find sometimes now. So imagine an enterprise with 2 million patients on a national basis, research on a national basis, 20 million individuals interacting, an interactive knowledge network actually looking at your data, looking at your blood pressure, looking at your weight, looking at what you're eating, looking at your metabolism indicators, all these kinds of things, 20 million people. Well, where will all of that technical staff and development staff and people and nurse practitioners and doctors and computer scientists and so forth. Well, we're working very hard so that Arizona becomes a central place for this emergence of the new kind of healthcare. A lot of people that you listen to on the radio who are somewhere between uninformed and ignorant, what they talk about is just everything that's bad. There's no solutions. They just talk about what's not working. Well, one of the things that we tell people about Arizona, about one of the things that's fantastic about Arizona, is that in Arizona you can get new things going. There's land, there's people, there's talent, there's natural assets, people assets, idea assets, speed, flexibility, innovation, capacity. All these things are possible in Arizona, and that's what we see in our relationship with the Mayo Clinic as we move forward. Last week, I spent 2 days in Mexico City. The new government that's just been put in place there under President Peña happens to have a few ministers that are very forward-thinking. We met with 2 of them in particular. The Minister of Economy, essentially the equivalent of the Secretary of Commerce, happened to have attended ASU, so we thought it might be useful to talk to him. And then the Minister of Environment, and we were invited as a part of this visit to prepare a conceptual idea that would go to the President of Mexico for the development of a binational laboratory built around the notion of building a photonic-driven technology base. That is, what can you do with photons from the sun? You can convert them into electrons. You can convert them into molecules. You can convert them into liquid fuels. You can convert them into proteins, from which you can develop medicines and foods and all kinds of other things. Something Mexico is very interested in, something we're very interested in, something that Mexico now, with its growth and its economy, with its government in place, with its industries in place, with its corporate partners that we can work with, we think there's a chance for us to build a headquarters for a binational laboratory focused on these kinds of future technologies right here, with a lot of this activity going on in Scottsdale. So then I come back to Arizona. And this morning I'm minding my own business, listening to the radio, and not commercials on the radio station that I was listening to, but the news. Here's what the news were, 3 stories that I thought were really fantastically expressive about the fact that all the right things about Arizona are not even talked about on the news. So one story was McDonald's is coming out with a new chicken wrap. And that the fried one was going to have more calories than the not fried one. This was not a commercial for McDonald's. This was a news story. The other news story was the price of gas. Every day on this radio station, the news is the price of gas. And I'll bet you every day it's either going up or down. And it's going up or down based on a thing that they also never talk about called the market, called supply, called demand, called this, called that. They never talk about that. They just talk about the news of the price of gas. Now, the last story that I heard this morning, this was this morning, was that there was a new kind of scanner at Walmart that would scan your stuff. And this was the news. The news. There was no news about one of the companies that ASU spun out that now has had $60 million in venture capital or more invested in it, which is based here in Scottsdale. The CEO of that company is a faculty member on leave from ASU, a young kid under 35 who went to ASU as an undergraduate, got his PhD at MIT, came back to be on our faculty. He's a genius, a mega genius. He's developed a nanotechnology laboratory, and out of his nanotechnology laboratory, nanotechnologists design things that are smaller than molecules that can achieve certain kinds of things that they want it to achieve. Now, some of these nano devices can be all made out of inorganic material, but they can now also be made out of organic and inorganic. Organic means it has carbon in it. And so, or it can be inorganic, organic, and it can be self-replicating. That is, it can actually reproduce itself. Now imagine particles that you can't see that we've engineered that can perform whatever kind of function you want to do. Well, that's what we have people over at ASU doing. And one of them spun out this little company that's just located here. Now, he's on this trip with me to Santa Monica. So I'm asking him what's going on and how's he doing. He was just back from Pakistan. So he has a battery technology called fluidic energy, which is doing a reverse globalization methodology where you develop the technology in the United States. Then you find people that will buy the technology outside of the United States, and then you work your way back once you have a market established back to the United States. So he's got stuff being sold out of Scottsdale now in Indonesia. in Pakistan and in a number of other countries where these battery technologies are being used to support the cell phone technology by supporting every cell phone tower in these parts of the world without having to rely on the grid or on diesel backup generators to allow these cell phone towers to operate through fluctuations in the power grid. And how many of you knew that kind of company existed in Scottsdale with ASU professors flying to Pakistan to develop markets for their technologies? How many knew that? No, because you're listening to the news about the new McDonald's chicken wrap. And so I wanted one of those chicken wraps, but I really want to know about what's really going on. And so here we're talking about what's right with Arizona, and let's sort of nail this down a little bit. So I'm going to scale things down a little bit and talk about what's right with Arizona. At the global scale, Metro Phoenix is one of 160 metropolitan areas on the planet with the highest potential for economic growth, economic development, and economic opportunity. 160 places on the planet. Metro Phoenix is one of those. If you look at how we're doing in the context of those 160 places, you do hear, when you don't listen to this radio station about McDonald's, you do hear on some other news outlets occasionally that there's these other cities around the world. And that some of them in China and India and Singapore and South America and Brazil and Europe and so forth are on fire economically. Well, we're on fire economically, positively also. It's an unbelievable story, Metropolitan Phoenix. When you compare the Metropolitan Phoenix against the other 160, we would come out of that comparison as a light heavyweight. Fantastic infrastructure, fantastic natural capital, productive and creative educational opportunities here, fantastic public support, fantastic public infrastructure, low taxes, small government, all these features that make this place a prime target of these 160 places around the globe for economic development and economic competitiveness to occur. We're very well positioned. We could be better positioned. I would guess we're in the top 50 or 60 of the 160. Pretty good place to be. This on a global basis. But the number of people here that even think this way is limited. We could use our clickers here, but we'll just use hands. How many of you think of Phoenix as one of the 160 most significant, Greater Phoenix, one of the 160 most significant economic urban areas in the world? Many of you. How many of you think people outside of this room think that? No, because they're really interested in those new scanners at Walmart. And so one of the things that we have in terms of what's right about Arizona is a fantastic global position, a fantastic set of tools and assets. The most powerful thing that Arizona has going for it, the most powerful thing are the people that are here. For whatever reason, the people that come to Arizona are people that are looking for something. And that is the spirit on which American progress has always been built. So we also, among these 160 global cities, are one of the places still with a pioneer spirit. Often places become haughty and stuck up and they lose their pioneer spirit and they think they're better than any other place. Think of like where I came from before I came here, New York City. They definitely have that view. That's to their disadvantage. Now, let's look at it nationally. Nationally, it turns out that the United States, between the year 1950 and 2050, will roughly increase in size by 300 million people. Roughly 150 million to 450 million. It's almost beyond conceptualization that the country will grow by 300 million people. And in that year when we have 425 to 450 million people, there'll be no majority population. It will be a polyglot of people, people from all over the world gathered in America to advance the American idea forward. And we know from present demographic trends and present economic trends and present concentration trends and so forth that 80% of all of that growth in the United States in that population will occur in 10 locations. One of those locations, the Sun Corridor in this region, is one of those 10. Think of it as Tucson, south of Tucson to Prescott. Right in the middle of that megapolitan, it is called, is Greater Phoenix, and in the middle of that is Scottsdale, as this community that has a very sophisticated view of the world and a very sophisticated view of itself, with art and culture and education and technology and community development and community engagement and all the things that Scottsdale represents. Now imagine a doubling of the population of the Sun Corridor. Imagine with the doubling of the population of the Sun Corridor, a tripling of the economy. If we just grow as we have too much in the past, grow with population growth, we're not really making much progress. So imagine a doubling of the population in the Sun Corridor and a tripling of the economy. Unbelievable outcomes, and Arizona, among the 10 megapolitans, is the youngest, the least infrastructured, the least rigid, has the fewest number of social issues and social problems. It has challenges, but not like other places have. And so I indexed among the 10 megapolitan areas, the Sun Corridor, with Scottsdale in the heart of Greater Phoenix being at the middle of what will happen as the megapolitan area in the United States with the highest potential, the greatest potential to move forward. Regionally, well, let's just back up for a small commercial, because most people, I get this far and they don't believe me. They say, well, everything's bad. Education's bad. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. Nothing's going on here. It's all doom and gloom. Well, that's because you read the psychiatrist report every single day in the Arizona Republic. Because the Republic spends a lot of time writing up analysis. The patient came in and was complaining. And they write about the complaints. They write about the stresses and the strains. Not that they're not supposed to do that, but that's basically an area of immense focus for them, because that's probably more interesting than the fact that somehow Arizona has become one of the centers for the design, conceptualization, and deployment of robotic vehicles. That Arizona has become the place that if the aliens ever actually do come to Earth to blow us up, in all the movies, they first blow up the White House, and then they blow up the Empire State Building, then they blow up dancing girls on the roofs of buildings in Las Vegas, as if those are, at the end of the day, the centerpieces of our culture. What they're really going to blow up are companies like Fluidic Energy over here in North Scottsdale, or companies like Intel over in Chandler, where the actual stuff that gives us power and capacity and technological means by which we might defeat these aliens, they're going to actually just wipe Chandler off the face of the earth, because in Chandler and Scottsdale and Tempe and a lot of communities here in Arizona, we've got space technology and robot technologies and microelectronic technologies, and down over on McDowell, General Dynamics, gone, baby. I mean, that thing is gone. I mean, they have geniuses in that company working on mobile command centers and battlefield information control techniques. That's what the aliens would worry about. They're not worried about the dancing girls in Las Vegas. And so on a regional basis, down here at the region, Greater Phoenix has in it, for instance, the highest achieving urban school district in the country. You take the 50 largest cities in the United States, Chicago, New York, Boston, St. Louis, Milwaukee, whatever the cities are, you line them all up. The highest achieving urban school district of the largest cities in the country is Mesa, Arizona. The highest achieving high schools in the United States are operated in the charter school model here in Arizona called the BASIS schools, highest achieving high schools in the United States, in Scottsdale, Tucson, spreading out throughout the rest of Phoenix as a function of achievement, as a function of innovation, as a function of the ways of doing things. The Scottsdale Community School District is likewise a high-achieving school district with high achievement, very high achievement. Within the region, we have one of the highest concentrations of engineers in the population. You happen to have in the region a thing called Arizona State University, which is the largest producer of college graduates among any American university. High-quality graduates, fantastic graduates. We have 12,000 engineering students, 20,000 students majoring in math, science, technology, and engineering. We have music programs, culture programs, opera programs, unbelievable breadth to the university, offering unbelievable opportunity to a broad cross-section of students. In China and in Mexico and in Brazil and in other parts of the world, they would do anything to have the assets that exist in this region. Anything. But somehow we've become obsessed with the fact that we're being beaten out by the Chinese because they can make plastic dolls better than we do. There's a lot more to what the economy will be in the future than plastic dolls, and believe me, the Chinese understand this. In their regions, they are looking now, we've been visited at ASU by every sitting member, every sitting vice minister for higher education that China has had the last few years. They get appointed, they fly to Phoenix. They want to see Skysong. They want to see the research park. They want to see ASU. They want to see scale. They want to see how we do this because they're trying to build 100 research universities, and they're not going to build 100 research universities like Harvard. Why not? Well, nobody goes to Harvard. Well, sir, a few people do, but this many. When China, there aren't this many people, there's this many people. And so they need a different model. The different model is here. So one of the things that we have in this particular region is unbelievable innovation. Innovation with our educational structure and design, innovation within our universities, innovation in the way our communities work and how we move together and how we work together. You know, one of the things as we've suffered through the economic upturn and downturn that people often forget is that the age of a regional economy is reflective of its volatility, and this is a young regional economy with unbelievable potential, with high volatility. High volatility, but we've got to focus in this region on our successes, particularly related to innovation. Now let's go from the region to locally. Scottsdale ASU. So a few years ago, we began working with the city of Scottsdale on a project in a neighborhood around McDowell and Scottsdale Road, where there used to be, I'm told I never was able to shop at Los Arcos Mall, but I'm told there was a mall there, and then I was told that after that mall was there, they wanted to build a hockey rink there, and you can see how that worked out in other areas. You're supposed to laugh at that. Those hockey rinks and those sports facilities, those are... And so in Scottsdale, with the Arizona State University Foundation, Arizona State University, the city of Scottsdale, and other partners, in the middle of the recession, 150,000 first building, 300,000 second building total, square feet of new space, dozens and dozens, 80 companies from 15 countries operating in a neighborhood that's seen better days on that McDowell corridor right there. I've noticed a few buildings are gone in that location and other buildings are empty in that location. But we're not gone and we're not empty. What we're doing is facilitating something that's completely possible here in Scottsdale, which is economic development and diversification through unbelievable innovation. So in that facility in Scottsdale, that Skysong is a company that started a few years ago with one employee that now is dramatically larger than that has up to this point sold 2,500,000 seats of math, science, and science learning platforms, 2 million seats in English, Spanish, Arabic, and Turkish, funded by Turkish venture capitalists, then later funded by Turkish Telecom, now operating on a global basis, working with us as their partner. And I won't go through all the things going on, but what I will say at Skysong is that on the local site, we're continuing to advance. There's hundreds of apartments being constructed right now around city-built infrastructure, a parking structure. We have designed the third building and are about to launch the third building. We've designed the fourth building and we'll be launching the plan to get that underway also. That will bring us to 600,000 square feet on that site, 4 buildings of the 10 that are planned. Remember, we're planning thousands and thousands of jobs around startup companies and new kinds of enterprises. Skysong weathered the recession by becoming full. So it's not like sitting there, it became full. We're moving too slow right now. We're trying to speed up our pace. We're trying to find more private capital to invest in the site to advance the overall success of the enterprise. And what are we doing with this? This has been, then again, on the local model. It's about the ability of the university and the city to work together, the university, the city, and the companies that we're working with to work together and bringing these things all together. So what's right about Arizona? So much so that talking about what's wrong about Arizona is virtually a waste of time. It's not about what's wrong with Arizona. It's about taking what's right and taking it further. It's about speeding up innovation. It's about allowing more innovation. It's about stop talking about the chicken wrap or the price of gas. It's not that the price of gas isn't the news, but how does that actually affect you? Yes, it affects your pocketbook, but it is what it is. How about the price of gas in Arizona was affected by the fact that scientists and engineers at Arizona State University, working with the private sector, launched the first liquid fuel byproduct from the combination of sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide. How about that? There's some news there. Now, we have a lab that can do that. Our press releases on that haven't made it onto that radio station yet. They read them, and they're more interested in the chicken wrap. And so the point, and the reason I'm picking on them, is that we have found ourselves unable in Arizona to actually focus on what's right. For whatever reason, I'm not quite sure, we focus more on what's wrong. Now, my family, there's many, many things that are right and many, many things that are wrong. We don't focus on what's wrong, we focus on what's right. And it helps us to be better as a result of that. And then to be better, we focus on how to improve. So yes, do we need better schools? Yes. Do we need better universities? Yes. Do we need more innovations? Yes. Do we need more venture capitalists? Yes, 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 yes. But the best way to make those things better is to stop talking about them and just do them. So one of the great things about Arizona is that there is a willingness to accept new ideas. There's a willingness to integrate these new ideas into the way that people think. There's a willingness to make things happen. And that's the most right thing about Arizona. It would be nice if we could get past these sometimes pointless arguments. They're just pointless. And get down to the business of figuring out how to make Arizona the home of the Sun Corridor, the most successful, the most capable, the most inspiring, the most economically vital, the most competitive region of the United States. And you do that by setting out on that course. 10 years ago, when I was able to become a part of the team at ASU, we set out to do the following. Could we make the university more accessible and enhance its quality at the same time? Last year, we graduated 18,000 students that I would argue are the best students that ASU has ever graduated. I would compare them against any college graduate from any significant research university in the world. Very high achievers. 10 years ago, we were graduating 9,000 of those people, now 18,000. In 2012, ASU, for the first time in its history, was able to actually say that the student body of Arizona State University is actually representative of the socioeconomic diversity of the state. First time ever. In 1990, 5% of our students came from the lower half of family incomes. 5%. In 2012, 50% of our students came from the lower half of family incomes. No research university in the country has ever achieved that. We achieved that. How did we achieve that? Because in Arizona, you can rethink. In Arizona, you can move in different directions. In Arizona, you can make new things happen. And so what's right about Arizona? What's right about Arizona is this is the place where you can make things happen. This is the place where you can achieve anything. This is the place where you criticize yourself a little bit and then you move ahead. And you spend most of your energy on that. And that's the environment that we still have. That's the environment that exists here. And so I hope as we think about how we're going to become one of these leading centers globally and make this the most fantastic megapolitan area in the United States, everybody understands that the only thing that keeps us from doing that is us spending too much time thinking that we can't. So, thank you.